Welcome, everybody, to A Nice Place to Brew. I'm Jason.
And I'm George.
It's been a little while.
Mm-hmm.
How are you, sir?
Doing all right.
Good.
Yeah.
If you're catching us for the first time, this is a show about all things beer and beer making. Check out our YouTube page for all of our past episodes. We have an audio podcast under the same name, A Nice Place to Brew, that's available on all the podcasting platforms. Topics like how to build a recipe, how to make a better homebrewed product. We cover all that and craft beer products, and then we tend to go off the rails a little bit. So check out our YouTube page, check out our audio podcast, and check out our website and social media links. Tonight's going to be an abbreviated episode. We have done in the past around the holiday time and some other times trivia related to homebrewing, craft beer, and of course Christmas topics. So we're in crazy times right now, aren't we, George?
We absolutely are. Yeah. With the holiday, and there's the new version of the crazy pandemic going on, but and also we're in standard cold and flu season, and that seems to have struck some of our cohorts, the cold and flu part. So yeah,
It is sad but true. Yes. Yes, we did. So we wish everybody back to health, and but we did want to come on and say hi, and we'll see what's next.
Absolutely.
I do want to cover one thing, because we start off every episode with what are we drinking tonight, and I have a beer that I do want to say something about. This is from Goldfinger Brewing Company out of Downers Grove. We've talked about them before. They are an all lagers brewery in Downers Grove, brewing beer with mostly traditional methods. And with lagers, that includes some high-level decoction practices and also some fermenters that are horizontal.
Like Cool Ship style, or no?
I will send you pictures, not Cool Ship style. It's very interesting. Anyways, this beer that I have is their Pilsner. Now, one thing, if you go to Goldfinger and you order a Pilsner, the time it will take them to pour that glass off of a tap will take about 5 minutes. It's one of those very old school pouring devices. And they pour the beer in one of those really thin glasses that just goes really tall.
Oh yeah.
I mean, they take the tradition of the Pilsner very seriously. And out of a can, I will say this beer is really, really good. The word that comes to mind to me is crisp. Oh. It's just very clean, just that classic Pilsner character that you would expect. So it hits a lot of very good notes.
All right. Well, for me, this year I was gifted a German import craft beer advent calendar.
Nice.
Yes. So 24 or 25 of the a beer day from different German craft breweries. And so this one is Weizenbach Hell, which is apparently their way of saying Helles, which is interesting.
Okay.
And it is quite tasty. And to be perfectly honest, I've only had, I think, one out of this calendar so far that has been okay. None of them have been disappointing. Whoever put this together did a damn good job. They've all been kind of your German lagers, Pilsner, Helles.
Right.
I had a Doppelbock, a Schwarzbier, I think was the most kind of out there beer that I had in there, and Vienna style lager. So it's been a very traditional beer Christmas time for me.
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
And a couple home runs in there?
Oh yeah, for sure.
Nice.
Yeah.
Nice. Good.
In fact, I'm shortlisting a Schwarzbier for my next one.
Okay.
Yeah. So speaking of which, one of the things that we could talk about, since I don't think we talked about it prior to going on hiatus, was Jason and I are once again doing dueling beers.
That is correct.
Yeah, so we have both made a Vienna Lager.
Mm-hmm.
And we started basically from the same uh, basic recipe, correct?
We did.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
all the same. It was kind of a changing picture as it was developing, and some ingredients became unavailable. So, but no, I believe that the products that we both made are identical in terms of grains, hops, and yeast.
Right. In terms of recipe, so you had trouble finding the yeast, so I did. When I ordered mine up, I did a adjustment to the same style yeast that you had.
Okay,
though I was tempted, I will admit, I was tempted to go with the Omega yeast because I had I used them with my Wee Heavy, and I quickly remembered why I love Omega as a yeast company.
Yeah. Chicago's own Omega. Cheers to them.
Yep. Yeah, absolutely. So, but yeah, so we both did a starter. You did a single stage starter, correct?
I did.
Okay. So how'd that go?
Good, I think.
Okay.
I don't know if, well, this may be confession time. So I did a single stage. You're right. For those who are not familiar with what a two-stage involves, you do a starter one time, rack the beer off of it, leave the trub behind, add some more sugar, add some more liquid, and put your stir plate back on.
Mm-hmm.
So that's the mechanics behind a two-stage starter. I was on a stir plate for about 48 hours, and that's typically what I do for a starter. And the recipe did call for, I think it was around close to 400 billion cells. So the starter is really important for that, because your typical retail packs are going to have about 100 billion cells, and the starter is just going to allow those to multiply. And if you underpitch, just bad things happen to your beer. So take the time, do a starter, get it up there. So, the calculations were saying that my 48 hours was going to get me around 350 cells. So I was looking a little bit light, but I was like, all right, just let's run with it, see where it goes. So after primary, and I left it in primary for a good 2 weeks, which for a lager is not a bad thing to do, because it's lower temperature. It's going to be at a slower pace, and you're not going to do anything bad by leaving it, in a sealed container on the yeast.
Right.
So it did its thing, and the next gravity that I took was a little bit high. I can't remember the gravity number offhand, but I did end up going back to Brew and Grow, buying another packet of yeast and repitching.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So, and it was all for not a whole lot. I think I dropped like maybe 0.4 of a point. So
when you say the gravity was high, what were you considering high?
10-18.
Okay. Yeah, a little bit on the high side for the recipe.
Yeah.
Okay.
So did it lower it? Yeah, it did. But, not by a lot.
Okay.
So I ended up having to do my diacetyl rest over again. Right. And then my temperature drop over again. And then we both did the same thing. I did rack to a secondary, kept it in secondary for maybe 4 days. And I just racked the beer into a keg to start carbonating last night.
Okay. Mine is actually still in secondary.
All right.
In secondary and conditioning. I use the conical that we know and love, the Catalyst. And
yes.
So I took the Trub off, and that was just a solid cake of Trub in that mason jar when I took it off.
Yeah.
Put another one on, opened it up, and I could tell it was just yeast and leftovers in there after the diacetyl was rest. So it's been on secondary for probably 10 days now.
Okay.
And so I am going to be racking it over to a keg and putting that on CO2 most likely this weekend. And yeah, so, but as we kind of alluded to, I did a 2-stage starter. This is one of the kind of principal difference. I also, for the first time, used these things. So,
is that the wort in a can? It's a pre-mixed wort
version of wort in a can. Yeah. So you dump one of them in, and you put in a liter of water. Boom, you got a start. And
I think they're great products.
Yeah,
I really do.
Convenient. And when you're doing a 2-stage starter, it's really helpful because you rack off. You let everything settle. You rack off the yeast, and then you can pour that and your water over top of it. Whereas normally, what you need to do is get some water, get some DME, boil up some wort, let it cool, and then rack it on top of it so that you're not, racking hot wort over top of your active cells. This sped up that process immeasurably. So definitely was able to get that done. And Paulie's right. It is exactly like proper starter from Omega. And it worked great. Had a nice solid starter for that, and when I pitched, everything took off pretty quickly.
Nice. So, what was I going to say? Let's just put some numbers to the starter methods.
Mm-hmm.
So, with that can, the process is cracking the can open, mixing it with a bottle of water, putting in your stir bar, pitching your yeast, and putting it on a stir plate. You're over and done in less than 10 minutes.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean,
the alternative...
The only thing is that I would say about this method is you're essentially working cold side the whole time. So I star sand everything, including the can and things like that. So the alternative
is doing what George was describing. Having DME, boiling it over a stove, just getting it to a boiling point, letting it cool, mixing that all together, and then doing your stir bar, pitching your yeast, and putting it on a stir plate. That's at least an hour's worth of time, start to finish, through all that.
For sure. Yeah. Now, granted, it is cheaper, because getting these wort in a can kind of things is a little bit more expensive. So if cost is a concern, it is definitely less expensive to do it the more traditional way. But if you're crunched on time, feeling lazy, or or whatever reason, then these fast pitch or proper or whichever ones you want to use are a good alternative.
Yes. Yes, I agree.
Yeah.
You'll be kegging shortly?
Yeah. Get it on keg, get it on carbonation, get it ready to go. Yeah.
And we'll have to do a little side-by-side taste test.
Absolutely.
I'm really looking forward to that.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So, speaking of numbers, do you remember what your OG on that was and data like that?
If you can hold the fort down, I'll run upstairs, get my book, and I will tell you. Hold on.
I certainly can. Yeah. So, I did mine. One of the things that I will say about this is I did not do a whole lot with water chemistry. I'm not sure if Jason did. My water, as it stands, is fairly neutral, fairly deep, fairly good for lager beers. So I didn't do a whole lot with water chemistry, and that's mostly because I didn't realize I was out of gypsum, which is a big element for water chemistry. So I didn't want to try to hack it together or anything. So I just went with the water that I had.
Well,
Did you find it?
Nope.
Okay.
All right, that'll have to be for another time.
Unless, because you and I were talking that day. Let me see if you sent me what it was.
Oh, okay. That's a good call.
Yeah. So, okay. So I said my pre-boil was 1050 with 6.5 gallons.
Okay.
You said yours was 1050 pre-boil, but not as much volume. You didn't say how much. Okay. So fairly consistent there.
Yeah.
I have a OG of 1060 with about 5.5 gallons total. And you said your OG was 1055. Still slightly higher than the recipe, which is very true. And which was 1052. And yeah, and then eventually once we got down to final gravities there, I was about 1014, 1015 because of I used a hydrometer a refractometer with calculation, so a little bit of estimation there. And Jason, you said yours was about 10. I think you said about 1016, 1015, something like that.
That's about what I recall. 1016.
Okay, so they're honestly fairly similar in how they came out. I think mine's going to have like another 0.2, 0.3% in it, but that shouldn't affect it too much, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think the biggest difference is you'll just have a little more beer than me. Because I give you a lot of credit. You've really built a very efficient, very well-run system.
Well, thank you. Yeah, and it's taken a while, but I think I've got the boil off and loss calculations and all that sorted out fairly well.
Yeah.
Now I have to start all over again on some of that because I just got for my anniversary an SS Brewtech 7-gallon conical. So now I have a brand new fermenter that I have to dial in and figure out the losses on and everything. So that'll be
George is moving up in the world. That's awesome, man. It really is.
Yeah. So, but yeah.
Good deal.
Yeah.
Well, we'll do something with that taste test, right?
For sure.
Video, audio, something.
Yeah, absolutely.
I'll look forward to that.
Yeah. So we'll do that. We'll probably try to release it on both platforms. We'll do it on here, grab the recording, and you guys can listen to us taste test on radio if you want. So.
All right. One last thing here. I can't not show off my new piece of glassware, which I'm really happy about.
Oh, please do.
So check this out.
Oh.
Newly embroidered can-shaped glasses.
Oh, yeah. You know me, I love those. So, yeah, that's very cool.
This was given out at the JBG holiday party last week, and I think they're really nice. I'm not entirely sure where we sourced this through, but these are sharp.
They are. Yeah, no, that's very nice. Oh, and it's one of the tall boys, too.
Yeah, 20 ounces.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, this handled a 20-ounce can, no problem. So
this is I chose this one because this is a holiday, festive, kind of ugly Christmas sweater.
Yeah.
Glass from Bold Rock Cider. So
that's nice.
Yeah.
Good deal.
So one last quick note about the brew day that may honestly affect things a little bit.
Yeah.
I think you had a little bit more temperature control than I did.
Okay.
Only because during my fermentation, I had it in my lagering chamber. However, my lagering chamber is in my brew shed outside, which is not currently temperature controlled. So there were some times where the temperature was definitely on the low end of the fermentation for that yeast.
Okay, that's interesting. So that would slow down the activity, but most likely, or at least less likely, to produce some off flavors.
Possibly, yeah. So that's what I'm wondering. And the other part of it too is I didn't have a good way of like warming it up in that chamber. So I did end up, to do my diacetyl rest, I ended up bringing it into my house for a couple days.
I think that's fine. I think that'll get it done.
Yeah, my house in the wintertime, especially in this room, is typically about 67 degrees.
Okay.
So, I mean, it should be fine for a diacetyl rest. And then I went and took it out and took it down 2 degrees every 12 hours until I hit 34 degrees and then just left it there.
Yeah.
So.
Well, that's good to point out. You did get down to your final gravity, though.
Oh, yeah.
I think that call out right there, I think, is the most important part. Because I think being at the lower temperature, that's the risk that you're realizing is just not enough energy in the fermentation to finish. But you didn't have that.
No, I don't think it got down. It definitely didn't get down that cold that I was, so far below it that it wasn't able to ferment. So I wasn't worried about that. But I think it is a little bit of a difference because what your chamber, what did you have it set at?
40. Oh, no, I'm sorry. Yeah, the bottom temperature range of the yeast was 46, I believe. Fact check me on that, but I think that's the number. I had my meter set at 51.
Okay, so yeah, you're a few degrees warmer than I was on that.
Okay.
I was definitely high 40s on mine.
Okay.
Most of the time.
Okay. Wow. I'm excited for this.
Yeah, it'd be really interesting because there's not a whole lot of big differences, but
that's the point. So I mean, we're talking about very little subtle differences on two different systems. How significant are these seemingly little things going to be in a side by side?
For sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
All right. Think that wraps it up?
I think so. Now, okay, we're gonna punt on the trivia thing, and we will try to arrange that for sometime between Christmas and New Year's when our friends are feeling better. However, I do want to just ask you one quick true or false question, Jason.
Okay, sure.
All right, real quick. So, you know that one of the most common sayings is yada yada is the best thing since canned beer, right?
Well, I've more often heard since sliced bread. That's what I more often hear.
Yes, but canned beer works for the brewing thing, so I'm going to say
agree.
That. So, true or false? True or false? Betty White is older than canned beer.
Wow, this is a great question. And throughout the content of A Nice Place to Brew, we have talked about the origins of beer in a can.
Including the year that it occurred.
Yeah. Gosh. So Betty White is right around 100. I think she's approaching her 100th birthday. I saw something about that recently. So is beer in a can more than 100 years old? I believe it is. So if the statement is Betty White is older than canned beer, I'm going to say false. Because I think the cans go back to the late 1800s.
No, you'd be well, no. First commercially canned beer, I believe, was in the 1930s.
Is that true?
I believe so. And
boy.
I was going because you have me.
That was a great true or false question.
Not if I don't know the answer. First commercially canned beer, 1935. So yes, she is older than canned beer because she is going to be celebrating. That national treasure is going to be celebrating her 100th birthday in less than a month. We must wrap her in bubble wrap and keep her safe until then. And then beyond. And
Yes.
she's also older than sliced bread, by the way, too, which first occurred in the 1920s. There, somewhere in there.
Did you just look that up too?
No, that one I knew. I don't know the exact date, but yeah.
Wow. Because you knew right off the top of your head when sliced bread was invented?
Only because it's in reference to Betty White's. Because in my mind, I've been saying it's the best thing since Betty White's, and she is in fact older than sliced bread. So
wow, I'm impressed. Okay.
Yep. So
wow. But by the way, Betty White, national treasure, 100%. Nothing but love and respect for Betty White.
For sure.
Yeah.
What's really funny is she was in a show in the 80s about being old.
Golden Girls.
Exactly. And that was 40 plus years ago.
Yeah.
So it's like, okay. And she's still around and kicking and still being a badass.
Yeah.
So. But
all right.
I'll leave you with that.
All right. Should I post my questions in the on our page? I'll even spread them out, or do we want to save them? I mean, do we think we can pun this and do this before New Year's? I'm
sure we can. Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
okay.
But I do think that we can probably tease a few. We are going to. So anybody that's listening right now, spread the word. We are going to be doing that. And we'll get you. Keep an eye out on our social media. We pinky promise that we are going to let you guys know ahead of time as to when that's going to happen. And so, you can bring 10 of your friends and they can bring 10 of their friends. And
please do.
We can have a good time.
Yes, absolutely. All right. Well, wherever you are, happy holidays, whether you're catching us for the first time or you're returning. Thank you so much for joining. We look forward to seeing you on the next episodes and our next audio episodes as well. So sending us off, we raise a glass one last time and we say, George,
takes a lot of good beer to make great beer.
Cheers.
Cheers.